All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Preeminent Producer Podcast. Today, I am talking with Gregson, one of our coaches inside of the Preeminent Producer program, and we are going to go through a bunch of different questions that have been submitted. So we cover a whole bunch of cool topics. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Are you a commercial insurance producer struggling to stand out from the competition? Do you find it challenging to grow your book of business and create a fulfilling career? If so, then welcome to the Preeminent Producer Podcast. Each week, we'll be tackling important topics, sharing proven strategies and insights from successful producers that are in the trenches and have traveled the journey to becoming a preeminent producer. You'll discover what it really takes to become preeminent and build your book of business in a way that isn't being taught anywhere else. Our hosts are experts in the field and have built thriving businesses by becoming the most trusted advisor to their clients. Welcome to your journey to becoming a preeminent producer. Let's dive in.
All right, Rick, since it's just me and you today, why don't we, before we even get into really some of the submitted questions that we have, I know it was asked about really all the coaches, so I'll ask you, what motivated you to become a coach in the Preeminent Producer program? Why put time into coaching other producers?
That's a good question. I hadn't really thought about it all that much. The opportunity came up and I sort of jumped at it. And then I kind of thought about why did I jump at it? And, here's the deal. I really, really love this industry. And this industry has been very, very good to me. And what I like is to see professionals in our industry. This is a career, not a job. So since this has been very good to me, and since it's kind of a maligned industry sometimes, but it's such an important industry, I felt an obligation to give back. And looking at my own career, coaching when I first entered into the insurance industry a long time ago, it really wasn't around. There were very, very few insurance coaches. It was the old-fashioned, here's your phone book and here's your telephone, go get them, Tiger. And I look back on that, and had coaching been around, had good coaches been available, my career would have gone much better, much faster. So that's what I owe to the industry, Paul.
I love it. I love it. This question, I'm going to start with this question since we have a bunch of just kind of rapid fire questions here.
All righty, I'm ready.
This one should be right up your alley. We have done full-blown trainings on this topic. But the question is, why should I consider BOR selling over what the majority is telling me to do of how to sell insurance, the traditional, typical way? Why should I consider BOR selling? And maybe I should even clarify, what is BOR selling? And then you can answer that question.
Sure. BOR selling is really simple. It is you coming in and making a presentation that proves in the mind of your prospect that you are a better match and can do better work for them than their current insurance broker. And that's it. It is just that. It's demonstrating that there's more to what you do than just product and price. And what you do is going to be much more valuable to them. When you deliver an insurance proposal and you happen to be the low bidder, it's what happens the next 364 days that really makes you valuable or not. So I think that's it. It's better for the agency. It's better for the client. And let me give you an example of what I mean, tell you a little story here. When we go out and we see somebody and we a current client or a prospect, and they consider us for a BOR, one of the compelling reasons that they want to do that is we want to represent you to the insurance marketplace. We've demonstrated through other things that we've already talked and coached about that we're a better match for you. So what we're going to do is go out and represent you. We're going to be the only broker representing you to the insurance marketplace. And here's what's in it for you. We're going to scour the marketplace and we're going to come back with an executive summary. We're going to show you the carriers that we've gone to. We're going to show you which ones decided to quote, which ones are not quoting, and the reasons they're not quoting. And we're going to get on the other side of the desk with you and say, hey, listen, I know this quote is $5,000 more expensive than what you're paying, but here's why you might want to consider that. This one is $5,000 less, and here's why you might not. The advantage of having one broker do this for you is our marketing report, our executive summary is going to give you warts and all these quotes and what's good and bad about them. So here's the deal. If you're dealing with a couple or two or three insurance brokers, then the insurance broker said, aha, I'm using earmuff indemnity, and they don't do a real good job of issuing certificates of insurance that I know you guys need to get on a job site. I'm not going to tell you that right now. I'm going to cross that bridge once I get to it, once I become your insurance broker. What we're going to do is say, yeah, we've gone to that company. They are cheaper. They won't be able to issue the certificates of insurance. They don't have in-state claim service. They don't have whatever. And we're going to really give you an unbiased report because we're your broker. We're now your broker. We don't need to do anything to convince you to spend less or more money. Our obligation is to get you the best coverage, the best price. It saves the client tremendous amount of time. You only have, we're going to use supplemental applications once. You're not going to have to fill them out 5 or 6 times for various people. It saves the agency a tremendous amount of time and money. And more importantly, I think it makes a better professional representation of you and what you can do for your client.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I know we have like 6+ hours of training on this particular topic that we give to our members inside the Preeminent Producer program. But just a follow-up question with that, if there is someone struggling with this idea of not quoting, just for your own experience, how long have you been doing strictly just BOR selling?
Oh gosh, probably 15 years.
So obviously it's working, right?
Yeah, it works really, really well. But it took me a long time to get to that. And even after going through some coaching on what and how to do it, it still took me a little time. So what I suggest to somebody is, I know it's very difficult just to draw a line and saying, I'm not quoting anymore. So give it a try. Give a BOR sale a try. What convinced me, and again, it's story time with Uncle Rick here, is that we were dealing with a large construction company that in our town and one of in Tucson. I'm in Tucson, Arizona. It's a community of about 1 million people. And we got involved very late. They called us. Actually, the CFO was a personal lines client of ours that we didn't even know. He just knew our name. We didn't know him, never met him, went down. We gave our little pitch. We invited him into our office to make a presentation of our capabilities. He told us that his account renews in 45 days. He's already gone to 2 national brokers. He was out to probably 40 different insurance companies. We had no chance. And I thought, well, what the heck? Here's a chance to really see what happens. I brought all of the staff that would be involved in his account into our conference room. We made a presentation, and we must have had about 9 people there. And they were there for just a social part, coffee, donuts, what do you do for the agency, how long you've been. We dismissed them, and then the core of the account executive that's handling myself, the marketing manager, then took over on an individual basis to let them know what a year in the life would look like. At the end of this presentation, he said, gosh, that was impressive. I'm leaving for Hawaii tomorrow. Our insurance renews in at that time about 20 days. But, okay. So I thought, well, what the heck? Kind of forgot about it. He called me about a week later from Hawaii and said, I can't believe I'm going to say this to you, but I'd like you to be our insurance broker. It's really? Yes. Okay. What insurance company are you going to put us with? I don't know. How much are we going to pay? I don't know. But we'd sort of talked about this. So anyway, hangs up. I run down the hall to my partner's office. She does our marketing. So I've got good news and bad news. The good news is we're going to write this account. The bad news is we don't have a company. We don't have one thing. So I had one carrier, I think I got a BOR on one carrier, ended up going up to Phoenix with the underwriter, sat with the underwriter in a swimming pool drinking beer, true story, and said, hey, I want to write this. He said, I'm familiar with this account. We will write it for you. The day before it renewed, which is never a good thing to do, but we were on a very short time, we walked in with certificates of insurance binders and an invoice, and that was it. It was an account that was very complicated, very sophisticated, had a very, very intelligent owner, and he never shopped our account ever. And we've had that account for many, many years. So we tried it. And we tried it on a what the heck kind of basis. And it worked very well. And it proved to us that this works, this can do it. And it was very beneficial for the client. He still raves about it. And it was very beneficial for the agency.
That's very cool. Well, we could definitely spend all day talking about this topic, but maybe we'll devote another podcast to this topic. Moving on to another question. You've made the statement that success leaves clues. And I've heard you say that many times.
Yes.
So one of the questions is, in your experience, what are some key traits or habits that you have found highly successful commercial insurance producers use or implement?
Building relationships, the ability to meet someone and build a relationship with them. If you want to build a relationship with them, I think that's one of the most important things you can do. You obviously owe your career to be professionally competent, to know your stuff. But there are a couple of ways of selling insurance. One, there are the technical men and women who are really know the coverages inside and out. There are the other people who are relationship kind of people who can build really great relationships. I'm kind of the guy that straddled both of those. I knew coverages pretty darn well. I could build relationships really great. And I had a great team behind me that knew all kinds of things. So my forte was really building a relationship with someone, to have a conversation with them, to put myself out in this community, to try to make myself different, to try to dress differently. I'm an old school guy, always wore suits. We acted differently. We did not quote on their insurance. So everything we did was about the services that we can bring rather than just look, copy, quote, and pray. So I think one of the best traits you can have is your ability to form relationships. Without that, you don't have a place to tell your story. If you meet someone, if you're not able to have a compelling story to get them to want to meet with you, and remember when I'm saying building relationships, this has nothing to do with quoting on their insurance or insurance at all. This is just getting a relationship with somebody so you can set that I'm not selling insurance. The idea here in networking, in putting myself out in the community, is just to get a meeting with you, not to sell you insurance. Because quite frankly, neither one of us know if this is going to be a good relationship. I may not want to do business with this person because life's too short to do business with people you don't want to do business with. So I'm interviewing them, they're interviewing me. And then the purpose of that appointment is to get an appointment to start talking about our discovery process and what we can do.
No, that's great. And you answered a couple other questions we had about building relationships. So that took care of those questions as well.
Perfect.
Very nice. As far as, let's talk about first meeting, for example. One question we have is, if the person responsible for making the decision is unavailable for the initial meeting and suggests that you meet with the next person in line, should you proceed with that scheduled meeting?
Boy, that's a really good question. The off the cuff answer is no, but, and there's always a but. We've all been in that situation, and the real answer to that is no, you never do it. But I'm okay doing it once. I'm okay for an initial meeting. However, making it very clear to the person who's missing and the people I'm meeting with that the next meeting requires the decision maker. And without that, we're not going further. I think one of those things that you really look for, and success does leave clues. One of the things that you look for really are those exit points. When should you walk away? Because as you've also heard me say, the best day to lose the sale is the first day, before you have time and effort. And you find out 3 meetings down the road that their current insurance broker is their brother-in-law. You want to find out these stopping points early. You have to understand, if the decision maker isn't in the room and you're making a pitch to the subordinates become the salesperson. And they're not a salesperson. They're not an insurance salesperson. They can't answer those questions. They don't know. So I think it's very important. You really have to weigh this. Is this big enough to risk this first appointment without the decision maker, but making it very clear that no meetings will happen after this without the decision maker in the room? And to say, well, and we're working with one of those right now. We've got a producer that's doing that. And the answer is, you're done. You should not meet with them. No, we'll take all the information and we'll give it to Ralph because he doesn't like to meet with you. it's done. It's like having somebody handing you their current insurance proposal or their policy copies, and the premiums are redacted. There's a red flag there. You're looking for those red flags.
Yeah, very good. Here's a kind of related question. Is it advisable to engage in team selling during the initial meeting?
Yes, absolutely. I think team selling is one of the greatest things you can do. There are a few things that happen in the initial meeting, and I've had some very good partners on team selling. You have to remember, we as producers, we're trying to build a relationship. We're looking for common ground. We're asking questions, and hopefully we're asking good questions, because the quality of the question is the quality of the appointment. So don't go into somebody's office and say, tell me about your business. That's just saying, hi, I haven't done my homework and researched you at all. So have these questions, research their website, do all of those, your homework, and start asking good questions. The nice thing about having a team person there is if you get stuck, and every now and then we get stuck, especially rookie producers, you've got somebody to kind of help bail you out. But more importantly than that, you've got someone there observing your prospect and their team or the surroundings. In other words, after an appointment, I would leave, we would be going back to my office, and she would say, did you notice when he said this, how his demeanor changed? Did you notice the thing in his office? Did you notice? And normally the answer is, I did not notice that because I was busy trying to get the next question going. Team selling will increase your hit ratio dramatically.
Very good. Here's a question, and I know we briefly covered these in past podcasts and also in our trainings, but when it comes to choosing a niche, we've heard the saying, the riches are in the niches, right? So is it a good idea, choosing a niche, is it a good idea for a producer just starting out? If not, when is a good time to start thinking about choosing a specific niche to really sell to?
I might be a little contrary to some of the people in the industry, but I don't think it's a good idea for someone to choose a niche necessarily on day one. I like to see producers work in the minor leagues for the first maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Go out and get in the community and move around and see if you can write small accounts. You're in the minor leagues. So I think that's very important to do. And then I think once you get in the big leagues, after a year, we say, okay, you're now out of the minors. There's a minimum threshold now that we don't pay commission under this amount of money, which I think is very important for every producer. If their agency doesn't have it, they should establish it themselves. But I think that's a very important thing to do. So you could declare, and then you can declare a major and a minor, because I think one of the things that's really important about a niche is you need to like the niche. First of all, you need to know that you have markets for the niche. You need to know that there is an audience out there for your niche, that there are enough people in the niche. You need to know that you probably don't want your niche to be a Hallmark card shop because they generate about $2,000 of premium, not revenue, premium. They're really inexpensive. So you need to do your homework as you're kind of building a general book of business. So what's going to happen is you're going to need to learn a lot about your niche. And I don't mean just the insurance coverages. We have a woman in our office whose niche is cannabis. And it is a emerging niche, and it is very successful for her. What makes her very successful is she knows the industry. She knows the laws about transporting cannabis. Has nothing to do with insurance. She knows about the levels of THC, where it can be sold and not sold in dispensary, over the counter. She has become an industry expert, not just insurance, but in their industry. And people seek her out. And I think that's the most important thing, for her knowledge about the industry. And she writes a lot of insurance. So I think it's an industry that you really need to like. And then as your general business plateaus, your niche takes off. And yes, if you want to make substantial money, niching is where you want to be. I'm also, I worry a little bit about cannabis as a niche. And just think about this with niches. Cannabis right now is not written by standard insurance companies. And first of all, it is legal recreational in Arizona, like California, like Nevada, like a lot of states. Medically, it's It's in many states, but it's not federally legal yet. So most of our standard carriers are not entering the field. It will become federally legal. The standard carriers will become carriers for it. And what somebody is maybe paying $50,000 or $75,000 a year for right now, in 10 years, could be on a BOP. That's $6,000, $8,000, $10,000. We saw that in restaurants a long time ago. Restaurants used to be E&S markets, specialty markets. And things changed dramatically. And this was a long time ago for you youngsters. And now restaurants can be written on BOPs. So yeah, but a niche, if you can find a niche that you have markets for, that you have a passion for and interest, because remember, if this niche takes over, this is going to be your life. You're going to eat, sleep, and drink this niche 24/7.
Well, it's such a great example of the goal on the journey of preeminence is to really be the most trusted advisor, right? To be a preeminent producer, we want to be the most trusted advisor. And the example you just gave, what a great example of her taking the time to learn all these other things that most would say, well, that's not insurance related, so I don't need to take the time to learn that. And man, I'm sure that's going to work out as it has been working out very well for her. So that's good.
Yeah, it really sets you apart. I don't care what your niche is, whether it's cannabis or trucking or restaurants or nonprofits, whatever. But the more you know about the industry, you become an industry expert, not an insurance expert, but an industry expert, and know everything you possibly can about their industry to help them. Then you become a trusted advisor to them on many levels.
Very good. Very good. All right, a couple more questions. One is, in a constantly evolving insurance industry, how can producers stay updated on the latest trends and market developments to maintain a competitive edge?
Ooh, wow. Give me that question again so I can pretend like I'm thinking about it here.
Okay. So in a constantly evolving insurance industry, how can producers stay up to date on the latest trends and market developments to maintain a competitive edge? I know we kind of talked about this a little bit in a previous podcast as far as the direction of the insurance industry and even covering the topic of AI and things of that nature. So everything's moving so fast.
It is.
But how would you, as a preeminent producer, do this? Because as we also know, there's a lot of shiny objects that we can get distracted with that can actually take our focus off of selling. So what would be your thoughts on that?
I think you need to stay up to date in your industry no matter what you do. You need to read periodicals. You need to go online and research things. You need to work with insurance carriers to find out what new products that they are developing. Remember, new products arrive after uncovered claims. And think about that for a minute. With cyber liability, that's the easiest example. So cyber has been out there for a long time. Crooks would do bad things that cyber had never heard of, like social engineering, the fraud. And oh my God, people are doing that. So they would add coverage for it. So coverage lacks behind claims, typically in new areas. Marketing is a little bit different. If you were fortunate enough, like I am here, we have a marketing department. So I can sit down with Laura and say, hey, Laura, I've got this that I'm working on. And she'll go, okay, I know those markets. And we have to think of it. I think of it here is my client is the client, the insurance prospect outside the agency. Our marketing department's clients are the carriers. They have relationships that they've developed with the carrier. Remember, and if you don't have the luxury of a marketing department, or if you think you can market better than they can, and I thought that until my marketing department proved me very wrong, because they're keeping up on the latest trends. They're keeping up on what's going on. So they build relationships with underwriters, and I build relationships with prospects and clients. And that's really the best way to get this thing done. But staying up to date, asking questions, meeting with insurance carriers when they're coming in, developing new products. Read, and study.
Very good, very good. You saying, how things have progressed and how, especially on this like cyber side, there's things that was not, never even heard of until it finally happened. It crossed my mind. I don't know if you heard, but this new scam that's happening with AI, and people are able to, clone voices and things of that nature. I'm sure there's a term for it, but I heard a story of this woman basically saying what happened to her, where her daughter calls her basically saying that she was kidnapped. And then the guy gets on the line and says, you're going to pay this much, or I'm going to drop her off in Mexico and all these things. And it was all fake.
Yeah.
It was not her daughter, and she swore it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a new problem.
Well, there is. If you've seen videos, and I'm sure everybody has, take President Biden, take Putin, take whoever.
Yeah.
They can AI words coming out of their mouth.
Yep.
It looks absolutely, positively genuine. And they are now doing that all the time. The technology is here. So you have to be really very careful with everything that we do, everything that we say. So insurance professionals, I mean, it is tough to keep up. It is. But let's think about something else. Let's think about your doctor. So when you go see your doctor, they will say to you, okay, I just read in a journal this. They have the obligation to keep up. Why? It's important. They're doctors. Guess what? What we do is important. We're insurance professionals. Now, I'll throw out my no-do masters thing. Many people know they should try to stay relevant and current. Some people do stay relevant and current, but a preeminent producer masters relevancy. They're constantly reading their journals, periodicals, those kind of things, trade journals. They know their industry.
Very good. Very good. What would you say, or what have been some of the biggest roadblocks that you have seen, whether for yourself personally or with producers that you have trained and worked with? What's some of the biggest roadblocks producers encounter in their career that really, really stops or prevents growth from happening?
I think there are two things. One of them is a compelling story. I mean, one of them is, do you have a story when you meet someone that is a compelling story that will say, this is interesting. This sounds a little different. I want to meet this person and I want to get to know them a little bit better. So I think a compelling story is really just absolutely a critical, your first move. Three things: building a pipeline. Number two, a pipeline of highly qualified people that meet your criteria to be a client. And number three is owning your calendar. Owning your calendar, living with your calendar. And what I mean by that is setting aside time for selling, setting aside time for prospecting. Don't get sucked into service because it feels good. You feel busy. You really, and especially for newer producers where you see everybody else is really busy, but owning your calendar and living with it and making sure that when you get to Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, it says make cold calls or go out and make drops or do whatever your program is, that's exactly what you're doing at that time for the amount of time allotted.
That's good. That's good.
Well, I'll just say, because it's really easy for us. I mean, if you're in a medium to small insurance agency, the training there is sometimes not the greatest because the principal was wearing many hats. He or she they've got a book of business, they're doing a lot of stuff. There may not be a designated sales manager. So you have a lot of free time. You have maybe very little accountability. And accountability is the most important thing we can do for brand new producers. So if you don't want to make those calls, you don't have to. No one's holding you accountable. If you don't want to come into the office and pretend like you're doing whatever, you don't have to. So managing your calendar, managing your time, and committing to this profession.
Yeah, very good. You mentioned a compelling story. So here's a quick shameless plug here. So if you guys are enjoying this podcast, that is actually a topic that we are talking about this month inside of our Preeminent Producer Coaching Program. So if that's something of interest, I encourage all the listeners to check out our Preeminent Producer Coaching Program. Our gold level is going to be talking about this month. So shameless plug. There you go.
It's a good plug, Paul, because that's really important. What we're trying to do here, we're not just saying in this coaching environment that we have for our students, we're not just saying develop a compelling story. When you're coaching someone, you don't say, okay, throw a football. You say, oh, this is how you throw a football. You drop back, you do this or the shoulder. So we're demonstrating. We will be giving them outlines and the ability to develop their their compelling story, and they'll even be an opportunity. And then they need to demonstrate to us that they can do, so can be coached and helped.
Very true. Very true. All right, here's the last one right here. What piece of advice would you give a new commercial insurance producer just starting in their career? And what can they do to really set themselves up for long-term success? What would be like number one piece of advice for them?
Wow. That's a really good question. The number one piece of advice for them is dedication. This industry has got a huge, first of all, I guess, if you're going to make it, if you're going to succeed in this industry, this has to be the right industry for you. You know that in the first year. You know that in the first 90 days, I would think, certainly in the first 6 months. We know that in the first 6 months, in the first year, for sure. Knowing that this is the industry for you is number one. Knowing that you can commit the time and the energy, and you have the traits that are required to do this job, and knowing you will commit the time that it takes to do it is the most important thing. You can learn insurance coverages, and you can become better at building relationships. Sometimes we wonder if not everybody is a good relationship builder. And again, you can become a technician and succeed also in this industry, which is also going to take a lot of time, a lot of dedication. But this isn't something that you dabble in. This isn't something that, like some of my realtor friends who sell 1 or 2 houses a year, it's a part-time job for them. This is a career. This is a serious career. This is what you're doing. The service that you provide is incredibly important. And I've said this before, the beauty of this industry is that we're the oil that makes business go. If you had $10 million in the bank, well, you wouldn't be listening to me. I mean, you'd be just doing something, you'd be out on your yacht probably. But if you had $10 million in the bank and you were going to buy a building for $5 million, you're not going to risk that capital on that piece of property without insurance. So we're going to make sure that that building doesn't, if it burns down, if something happens to it, we're making those promises to you that we're going to make it right. So it allows that investment to happen. It allows the lender to lend the money. It allows all of those kind of things. And you will see it in your career if you've done the right stuff. The first time somebody, and mine was an architect who came into my office, hysterical because he'd been sued for $1 million. And I grabbed the suit papers out of his hand and said, "Give me that. Now go back and be an architect and don't draw any more buildings that fall down. We've got this. We'll defend you. We'll take care of this for you." It gives you a great feeling of how important this career is. So make sure it's the right career for you, number one. And if it isn't, get out, because you will languish in this career. Make a dedication to become preeminent. Be money motivated. Be money motivated. Don't be average. Don't get into this industry and be average. The average people wash out. You can make, my life has exceeded its wildest dreams, honestly, because of this career. So I dedicated a lot of time to it, a lot of effort to it, a lot of energy to it, and it paid off enormously for me. So that's kind of a meandering way of what I think a new producer has to consider.
On that note, I wasn't planning on asking this, but being dedicated and really the dedication for success. But if a producer wants, and I think we all do, we want to shorten the distance of time to reach success. So one of the ways that I know we recommend that is coaching, right? And so just real quick, why should someone consider having a coach?
Well, because success does leave clues. I mean, I've had a successful career. I'm having a successful career still. I wish it would have happened a lot earlier. And I struggled. I was a single dad. I had 2 kids and I wasn't making any money. And a lot of things were happening, and I needed money, and I was very money motivated because I had to feed these 2 enormous kids that were growing up in front of my eyes, who are now 6'4" and 6'7". So you can imagine what they ate. Wow. But yeah, it's a career that, being money motivated is why do this half-heartedly? I almost said another word, but why do it half-heartedly? You're going to show up every day. why don't you make every day the Super Bowl? Coaching would have changed my life. It'll change yours. I hope we're your coaches. I really do. A mentor. And again, Paul, once again, success leaves clues. It will speed up. If you do what a successful person does well, it will speed up your journey. That you're not the one that is forging the path. You're not chopping through the jungle. You're not shoveling the snow. You're following somebody who was already chopped through the jungle or already shoveled the snow. Your path is easier. I'm not saying it's easy. It's easier. You'll get from point A to B much faster through coaching, through mentorship.
Very good. Well, thank you, Rick. This is always fun. Appreciate your expertise.
Well, it's fun to share. It really is. Kind of going back to the original question, Paul. I like sharing this because this career has been very good to me, and I do owe it. And I want to see other professionals in this industry that I'm so proud of, and I want to see them succeed.
Very good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so much good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed all those different questions. We'll be doing more of those as well with all of the coaches on the call. But something I mentioned at the very end there was shortening the distance of time to actually achieving success. And if you want to shorten the distance of time, it really is important to have people coaching you that have already paved the way, that's already experienced the success you're looking for, so you can learn from them. And if that is you that wants to shorten that distance of success, then I encourage you to check us out at thepreeminentproducer.com. Check out our different programs and training where you have deeper access to all of our coaches, and we really do deep dives into the frameworks for success and how to become a preeminent producer and achieve that success. So check us out, thepreeminentproducer.com, and we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Preeminent Producer Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to subscribe, rate, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Preeminent Producer Podcast.